So, Georgia, welcome. Welcome to the
Thank
People of
you.
Talk
Thanks. How
Show.
are you?
And good. I'm very excited about your book. And well, Terriers in the Jungle is your new book, and it's just been released. And is
Yes.
this your first book?
My first book. Yes.
Oh, wow. So you're really excited. Well, wonderful. And I'm really glad to have you here today. And the People of Purpose Talk Show
Thank
welcomes you.
you.
Michelle Benjamin Foundation welcomes you. And well, I've read your book, and I have to say, it is fantastic. And the way you've narrated the story through the animals, I think it's marvelous. It's exciting. It's great storytelling. And especially, it's a form of animal activism. So maybe just introduce yourself to our audience. We welcome our Facebook audience and wherever else people are watching us today. So you can just introduce yourself, tell everybody where you're from, and how you became a writer.
Yes. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you for this wonderful opportunity. And it's great to see you again. Um, I'm Georgia Umano. I live in Santa Monica, California. And I've been an animal lover all my life and an activist for about 20 years. Um, I just I love my dogs a lot, and I love elephants especially. I've been to Africa several times, always to Kenya, to visit the elephants, and I have some adopted baby elephants over there at Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, and I love going there and seeing them and writing about them. I've been doing a journalism for several years where I write about animals and conservation and travel. So as a result of that, I was able to go over to Kenya many times to visit and write articles. And the last time we went with my husband and me, we decided to try to live there because we had so much fun. The people there are fantastic and the country's gorgeous, and I could be near the animals. And I wanted to help animals. I wanted to help elephants. So that's what we did. Before that, I was mostly doing comedy and acting and also teaching. I was adult education teacher, and I was mostly working with in one group part of my teaching. I was working with older adults, and we were doing physical fitness and yoga, and then I was also teaching a little ESL, English as a second language, and then I also worked with kids, and we did Children's Nature Institute. I was a member of that for a long time, and we took school kids out on nature walks, the kids that live kind of back away from the parks and the beaches. And we'd send buses out to get them, and then we'd take them out, and then we'd be the docents, and they would just have a blast. So anyway, I ended up doing a little bit of that type of thing, even to a bigger extent in Kenya when we moved there, which was very exciting.
Georgia, that's fantastic. You obviously have had a wonderful life in conservation, and your work with elephants is well, it's admired around the world. And that you have written this book and you have told the story through your pets who traveled with you to Kenya. You want to elaborate on that a bit? How these animals traveled with you to Kenya from Los Angeles? That's an interesting story.
That was difficult. Well, when we decided to try living in Africa, we didn't know how it was going to work out. We didn't know anything, but we tried to make it so that if we really wanted to stay there for a long term, that we would be able to. So of course we had to bring our pets because we're not going to leave them back, you know. So that was difficult, because I had to do a lot of training with them because they had to ride on airplanes. They had to know how to be quiet. They had to know how to not react to things that they might normally react to. And so, I trained them, and I also got them, I have a little bit of a hearing thing. So I was able to get a service dog certification for them, which also helps them on the travel, that they don't have to stay in a cage. So we just we did it. You have to get all kinds of permissions on the airlines to take dogs. And so I did everything I was supposed to do, but there's always glitches. And we had a glitch. We flew to New York. And then when we started to fly from New York to Europe, the plane told us they didn't have any record that I had told them that I had these service dogs. So we had a bit of a problem at the airport, but finally they worked it out. And also my dogs, they could tell when I'm getting upset. My one dog, Romeo, he would have started howling or something, but he didn't. He kept us cool. And we made it. We made it over there. And then we had to go into Tanzania instead of Kenya because they have better rules regarding animals coming in than Kenya. They make you keep it in a cage and all kinds of things. So we went, and my friend Joyce Poole, who's an elephant researcher in Kenya, she told me about her friend who was a veterinarian in Tanzania who helps people like me with animals to get in. So she got us an entrance and exit visa from Tanzania and also an entrance to go across the border to Kenya. So we drove across. And so, and then once we got there, it was also different because they're small dogs. They're both rescue dogs. They were started out as street dogs. And of course I adopted them, but they're not pedigree by any stretch of the imagination. They're probably mixed. But when we're over there aren't any other dogs that look like them. So everybody was extremely interested in them. Sometimes a little too much because there was dog theft where we were living. And so I had to always be very careful with them and not let them roam around very far from me.
So the dog theft, would that be the bad people you talk about in your book? The dog thieves?
Well, yes, but I mean, there were all different flavors of reactions to the dogs, from everything from they wanted to buy them, they wanted to breed them, they
Wow.
wanted their children, to they just wanted them. And I would have my two dogs and people would come up to me and they say, "Nice dogs, give me one." And I say, "Why should I give you one?" "Oh, because you have two," or "because you're my friend," or something crazy. So there was that, and that I do touch on that in the book a little too, like the book is a novel.
Mhm.
It's based, inspired by our experiences. We've had I wouldn't have known all the things in that book if I hadn't lived there, if I hadn't gone through similar circumstances. But the whole book is not a memoir because it's a story.
Okay.
And
Okay.
of course, when dogs are talking, it's automatically considered fiction. So even though I feel like I know what they would say if they were talking, but
So you were recently recognized by a very a prominent uh, press organization, Atmosphere Press. Is this a press organization in Los Angeles? Atmosphere
yes,
Press?
and it's a publisher.
Is it a publisher? Okay, great.
Yeah, it's a
Because I just
publisher.
want
Yeah.
to, I just want to read just for the benefit of the viewers, just so they have an idea of what your book is about. Because I like what Atmosphere Press wrote about your. Or was this published in their journal or something that they have out on the
No,
internet?
it's published. It's a book, but they're the
Mhm.
publisher. They're the
Okay.
ones that sent it to the press and
Oh, so
checked the editing
is
and did
this
everything.
your publisher of this? So this is the publisher that published this particular book.
Yes, yes,
Fantastic. So Atmosphere is your publisher. Great. So I
yes.
just
It's a
want to
small.
read.
It's a small press.
It's a
Okay.
small press. Okay, great. So because this is a self-published book. So I just want to read what they had to say about your book. I think it's this is the link you sent to me. I think it's quite lovely the way they wrote it, and it tells well, without giving away the story because we want people to buy your book.
Yeah.
It
No.
does, yeah, it does give a nice synopsis of this story. So I'm going to start reading it for the viewers' benefit, Georgia. From the
Okay.
concrete jungle of Los Angeles to the lush jungles of Africa, Roxy and Romeo lead us on their journey alongside their animal loving mother, Kate. to save the elephants. Oh, did I mention Roxy and Romeo are dogs? Terriers in the Jungle by Georgia Umano tells a story of two very eloquent canines, Roxy and Romeo, in what reads like a personal diary of their adventures. Their tale starts with their struggles to survive as strays on the unforgiving streets of LA. Fortunately, they find a comfortable and loving home and learn how to be companion animals. But that's just the start of their adventures. So, Georgia, this is their actual lives. This
It's
really
their life.
this is
Yes. Mhm.
and you found both the dogs as rescues. You went to a shelter or you found them on the street. How did this happen?
Well, Roxy, the older dog, we found her in a shelter, and that was, we had another dog before that that had passed away, and then
Mhm.
we had two dogs before that, and one of them passed away, and the other one, we wanted to get him another companion.
Okay.
So I found her in it's called SPCA LA
Okay.
shelter,
Uh-huh.
and and then I didn't know anything about her background,
Yeah.
but she was very strong-willed from the beginning. She knew what her name was because I tried
Oh,
to give her a different name and she
uh-huh.
wouldn't respond, and I kept trying and she'd walk out of the room. And then
Oh,
I started just going through all the dog names I could think of, and when I said Roxy, she looked at me like, you got it, you know. And that was her name. I'm sure that was her name before. And I was very eager to find out what her background was. So I had to go talk to animal control because they were the ones that got her. And it
mhm.
turned out that she and her twin brother were picked up on the streets. And I felt, wow, the twin brother, I didn't know she had a twin brother. Let's find out if he's still in the shelter. Maybe I can get him too. And if
Mhm.
I can't keep him, I can maybe one of my neighbors. So because she seemed very lonesome,
Yeah.
and but he had already been adopted. But that was one thing I thought the shelters, they should keep the siblings together in case, and try to encourage people to keep them together, because she was, it took her a while to adjust because she was unhappy.
Mhm. You
And
know, well, I'm not sure about the shelters, but the rescue organizations here, the one that I work closely with, they keep them together. Uh,
yes, a lot of the rescue groups do, but
yeah,
in the
they
shelters, they're
they
not
keep
as
it,
refined.
and I think also because of their lack of funding and whatnot, they just have a hard
Yes.
time set up.
Oh
Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
it's all, and you have to bless all these people who are helping these poor
Yeah,
animals,
yeah.
even though they may not have the top, like even Romeo, he was a dog in the gutter with a
Yeah,
broken leg, and
yeah.
he was a puppy.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know how he even survived, but
Wow.
then he was caught by a dog catcher and they took him to a shelter, but it was a shelter that's known for not being that too kind. It's like, okay, you could stay here for a little while, but if nobody takes you, we're probably going to euthanize you because we don't have any space. And he wasn't given a chance because he was handicapped, and then nobody helped him, and he was just sitting on a cold floor. So it was easy. It was, I'm glad that then he was rescued by a rescue group, and the rescue group, they took him to a vet for his leg, and the
Okay.
vet wanted to amputate because it was very, very
Oh,
bad. And luckily the head of the organization, she's a doctor, and
yeah.
she talked to the vet and she said, let's put a steel plate in there so he doesn't have to lose his
Wow.
leg. So he is actually a bionic dog now.
You know, when my brothers and I were children, we had a puppy. Her name was Lucy, and she
Oh,
was she was actually knocked. Well, she was just a few months old. She was knocked by a car. She was very naughty. She always ran away, and the one day she bolted from our yard right across the road, and a car hit her. But
oh,
thank God she didn't die, but she was badly injured. So my this was like wow in the 70s, because my brother Christopher wasn't born, and he was born in 1980. So this little dog, this little puppy, my dad took her. We bundled her up, and my dad took her to the vet. And fortunately, this vet had, in the 70s, some advanced techniques, because he said to my dad, we can save this dog, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. So what they did was, like your dog, like Romeo, they did um, uh, a sort of a metal plate where her femur broke.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how integral the femur is to the dog's body, but they did something, because Lucy lived for 12 years after that.
Mm-hmm.
Lived a good long life with us. She practically grew up with us. And I mean, this was way back in time, and I admire these vets that actually give these dogs a second lease of life. And she was an amazing pet, but she was always bolting. I think that was, she was like your Roxy and Romeo. She wasn't pedigreed, but she was amazing. One of the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, we loved her. As kids, we loved her, and it's amazing. I haven't said the story in a while, and look what your book has done. It's made me tell my Lucy story. And
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
we've had many pets. I'm a pet
Yeah.
lover. Gavin and I, we've had duxies for most of our marriage, and they aged, they grew old, and they passed on. But we had the most amazing life with them. And like your dogs, they traveled with us. They lived
Yes.
with us in 3 cities,
They're
and
part of your family.
part of my family. And the thing is, your book totally resonated with me because of that. I could associate what I was reading with the life we had with our pets, and the drives and the walks and all the love. And
Yeah.
so, Georgia, thank you for putting out such a beautiful book, which I think, I mean, this is just my personal observation. I think your book has the potential to reach a vast audience, from a young
Thank you.
reader to a really mature reader.
Thank
So
you.
I know when I read what your publisher had to say, they did mention that it has the potential of becoming a good Disney movie. Now I know you in that Hollywood scene there, living in Los Angeles. So have you thought about that?
Oh, of course.
Seriously.
Yeah, that's really, truthfully, that's one of my big goals for it, the
Wow.
story. I also think because it's a love story like Lady and
Mhm.
the Tramp, but it's got so
Yes.
much more in it because it has the African adventure, and it has all the wild animals, and what the dogs learn from the animals, and it sort of resonates it with people have told me that it makes them think about themselves and what we need to do to help.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I think I think it should reach as many people as possible, especially since it seems to be affecting people in a good way. And I'm just hoping that it'll get out there, and that I would love it to become a movie. That would be my dream.
Well, Georgia, I hope it does. I know. I know your husband's, well, Gerald has a screenwriting background, so I hope the two of you can make this happen. That would be beautiful,
Well,
because
he and I both have a screenwriting background. We met in a screenwriting class.
oh wow, I didn't realize it was a screenwriting class that you both met.
Yeah.
I knew you met in a writing class, but I didn't realize that was where you both met. But that was fantastic. Well done. You found a husband, and you you both have the same interests. You do that. So Georgia, I would love, my personal opinion, I would love to see this book as a movie. I mean, as a creative myself, because it just awakened all those senses in me, and it inspired me. It inspired me because I could relate to what you were saying. And of course, the experiences your dogs had, the travel was very intriguing, because, once we had planned to live abroad, and when we planned the travel for the animals, they were going to travel as cargo from
I
Africa.
know.
That's how you travel with it doesn't matter. But wherever in the world you are traveling with your pet from Africa, your pet will travel as cargo. But I think Americans are very fortunate that you can have the pet on the plane with you, sitting next to you, and that for me is quite amazing. I mean that, and your dogs were trained for this. You had done a lot of training
A lot
before,
of training, yeah.
a lot of
Always
training.
with treats. They, treats, luckily they're treat centric. They love treats. So if you have a dog that doesn't love treats, I think would be a little harder to train. But if they love treats, you
I
can,
have
you
not
can.
met a dog yet that doesn't love trees. That's that's actually good to know. And what's it like traveling with your pet on the plane? In South Africa, well, I'll speak for my country, it's unheard of.
Yeah,
If should I
it's
travel with
unheard of in Africa. People would stare at us. They'd
yeah.
stare at us in the airport. It's like, just like they stared at us. I mean, it was a very unusual, because we were the first ones actually. Kenya Air just started allowing pets just while we were there. And we took one flight from Nairobi to Kwale, and it wasn't the, even though the plane had made this rule, everybody that worked at the plane wasn't savvy to the rule, and they were all trying to stop us. So
Wow.
it was, it was not easy traveling. In fact, truthfully, when we planned our going there and staying there, in my mind, I had that we were going to travel from there, from Kenya, to see, because we've never been to South Africa. I wanted to visit a friend in Rwanda, and I was had that in the back of my mind. But when I saw the way that it was with animals, I knew I wasn't going to be able to do it, because I wouldn't have been able to bring my animals. I didn't have anybody there that I trusted enough to leave my dogs with.
Mhm.
So
Well, that's the thing. Dogs are like children, and well, for us, and I can see that with yourself and Gerald as well. The dogs are children, and as you say, um, it's not an easy decision to just leave your pet with anybody. And
no,
I was just having a conversation with a friend who also has fur children, and she's thinking of a new puppy, and she says, "But you know, I'm away at work the whole day," and she has a bigger dog. She says, "I'm afraid to leave the puppy with him because he could eat the puppy." So she's actually arranging puppy daycare, which I think is brilliant. I think
yeah,
it's important that the world recognizes how
yes,
provide the love
mm-hmm.
in families, because families are different these days, and pets provide the love, and just like they love us, we love them, and it's a beautiful relationship. So I have to ask you one important question. What did you have to say about what the Pope said regarding families and dogs? Did you?
Can you remind me what the quote was again?
Well, the Pope recently, well, he reprimanded couples whom he said, you know, didn't have children, but
Oh,
rather
right.
had
Yeah.
pets, dogs. Yeah. So I want to hear from you, Georgia, because I know you're very
Well,
much
me
a person.
against the Pope, huh? No.
Yeah,
No,
sure.
the Pope, he's steeped in tradition, and, he has to uphold a lot of those traditions. That's his job. But let's see, the world has changed, and we don't need a lot of children anymore. I mean, the world, actually, we need fewer children. We have to take care of what's here. It's like, we're going through a crisis. It's the sixth mass extinction of animals. It's climate change. We have an urgent situation right now, and we need to deal with it. And that doesn't mean having a lot of kids.
Well,
So I'd say pets are wonderful. They teach you love. Pets are full of love. And if you are the children you do have, they can learn and get so much from an animal. Children are more open to animals.
mhm,
Children are affected, by animals, and animals are good for them. But the parents sometimes don't
absolutely.
understand.
Absolutely. And the thing is, my personal opinion about pets and animals, pets teach children to be more loving, to
Yes,
respond to the world in a more kind and gentle way. And I think the relationship between Roxy and Romeo, I mean, the, their dogs, and the way you personified their characters, obviously. Not everything is fiction, because I have lived with, uh, you know, puppies who grew up into adult animals, and they were from the same litter, so they were brother and sister. And I know the relationship. It's very warm and it's very beautiful. And I think with all the unkindness in the world, I think we can learn so much from the animals. There's a lot to be learned.
yes.
So, Georgia, tell us about your experience with elephant conservation.
Well, let's see. Actually, my whole path into elephant conservation started with a dog
Mm-hmm.
because I had when I was when I was 8 years old, I was a lonesome girl, only child, and my parents got divorced and we moved, and I didn't have any friends. And my mother had to work very all the time. So I was what they call a latchkey child. I'm
Mm-hmm.
home behind the key, you know. So on my birthday, my uncle took me to an animal shelter
Mm-hmm.
and let me pick out an animal. And I picked out this dog, a big black dog. I loved it so much. It was my best friend. It was my only friend. Let's
Mm-hmm.
face it, it was the first time that I felt this unconditional love. My parents were always fighting with each other, and I felt like I was a basketball between them. But this
Wow.
dog loved me. He just loved me, and I loved him. And it was just the most beautiful thing that happened to me at 8 years old. And then my mother didn't like the dog. You know, she grew up in a different time and place, and she never got to know a dog really. And this was a big dog, and she was afraid of it, frankly. And also, she didn't think that I could take care of it. So one day when I got home from camp, day camp, Blackie was gone. And I was the most devastated thing that ever happened to me. I mean, I just couldn't, I didn't think I could live. I was so bereft. And for 3 days, I just wailed and cried. And I started really hating my mother. And
Oh,
it was
wow.
very, yeah, it was bad, you know, because she wouldn't listen. She didn't have a feeling for it at all. I mean, some people really don't seem to have that dog gene or that animal, you know. She just didn't understand me. And so something inside of me, after 3 days, I realized there was nothing I could do, and that I just had to close that down part of my heart, you know. So that's what I did. And then September came and I went back to school. And I luckily I made friends with a really nice person that year, and we were good friends. And I just carried on with my life and went to school, and I was a good student. And I had, you know, as I got older, I had a lot of friends, and I just didn't think about it anymore. And until years later, decades after I was married and moved to California, and I lived right on the beach. And it was happy, you know. But I was walking on the beach with Gerald, and we saw this little dog, and it jumped up into its owner's arms, and I was fascinated, and I was like, wow, look at that dog. And I really truly had put dogs out of my mind, and I just like, wow, I just had to know everything about this dog. What kind of dog was it? This. And I started reading, and then it was like, I had to have a dog. I had to have a dog. And we lived in a place that was a really nice condo, but we didn't own it. We rented it, and the owner did not want dogs. So that stopped me at first because we loved our apartment. It was overlooking the ocean. It was rent control. It was really great. But I had to have a dog, and that was overriding everything. So at first I said, okay, well, I'm going to get a little puppy, and I'm just going to put him in a bag when I go in and out so nobody sees him, you know. So we did that for a little while, but we realized that wasn't going to hold. So that was what actually made us start looking for a condo to buy. And I mean, I know nothing at that time. I knew nothing about real estate, but we were lucky because it was a time when real estate prices were down, which is
Wow.
unusual here. They
So
were real
thanks to
down,
the
and
dog.
we found this place, and it
Yeah.
was you know, they couldn't sell them. Things were not selling. So we found this beautiful place, and we got it, and we always called it Marcello's house because that was the dog's name. That if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have it, you know.
So
And
this
we
is
got,
the Marcello in your show, your
yeah,
YouTube
Georgia
channel,
and Marcello
the,
show.
the Georgia and Marcello show. So tell us a bit about Georgia and Marcello. That's very interesting because you are a professional actress. You
Yes.
have studied acting at the New York University. So Well, I have watched a few Georgia and Marcello shows. Very entertaining.
Oh, thank you.
Very entertaining, yeah. And Marcello was very sweet, lovely dog.
Marcello was a great actor. He was really a great for because we did comedy,
Yeah.
and with every person he met, he would have a totally different reaction. Just like he might come over you, and he would just think you were a princess and just lie at your feet. Or
Oh,
somebody else, he would go and he just keep sniffing. Or
yeah.
somebody else, he would just do different crazy things. So what I had a lot of comedy friends at that time. So we had them come over and meet Marcello, and we saw how Marcello reacted to them.
Mhm.
Then we created a skit around that, around his reaction. That's his reaction was going to be kind of a punchline. So that's what we so that's what we did. We made little skits about Marcello,
Uh-huh.
and it was fun. It was fun. It
And
was on
so,
public access. Mhm.
and that's amazing. And then did Marcello actually have any other roles, like perhaps in a movie? Because I know when Gavin and I were in Hollywood once, we stayed for about 2 weeks, and then we did the whole Universal Studios tour. And
Wow.
one of the things that stayed with me was the animal actors. That was my favorite part of the whole tour. So Marcello was kind of an animal actor.
Yes.
Did he get any other roles and parts? I mean, you are in Hollywood, you are in that part of the world.
Well, there was one little film I did where I played a homeless lady, and and I had a shopping cart, so we put him in the cart.
Uh-huh.
But that was I didn't pursue that for him.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't, because it's hard enough being an actor. If you're not an actor and you just want to have fun with your dog, that's a good thing to do. But
Mhm.
if you're an actor too, you have to spend so much time thinking about your own parts that you really don't have time to start doing that with your dog. And anyhow, Marcello kind of got tired of acting anyway, and he something in him changed when he was about 7 years old, and he became harsh. He just What happened was he started to lose his eyesight,
Oh,
and before that he was the best ball player ever. He could catch a ball from way across the field. If we went for a walk, he would find balls under bushes, and he was just a champ, and he had a certain swagger, and all of a sudden he couldn't see
oh.
and it made him crazy, and he became aggressive, and he even bit some people. So I couldn't work with him anymore that way, and there was nothing because he couldn't play ball anymore. He was depressed. And so that's when we got another dog to keep him company.
That's important. The dogs love to be socialized.
Yes, and I right now I would always have two dogs
Two dogs.
because they love companionship. They're pack animals,
That's
and you can't be with them every second, and they
absolutely.
enjoy. I saw how Roxy and Romeo they enjoy having adventures together, and they
Yes,
check in
yes.
with each other, and
Mhm.
even when they have to go on the plane, and they look at each other, like school kids would,
So
like.
Roxy and Romeo are boyfriend and girlfriend. I love that part in the book. So tell me about that. That is so sweet. That is very sweet, Georgia.
I
Are they
know.
really boyfriend and girlfriend, or are they behaving like brother and sister? Are they really boyfriend and girlfriend?
Well, when in the beginning they were like boyfriend and girlfriend.
Okay.
Roxy, before I got another dog, when my last dog, I had this other little dog, Zuki, she got cancer. But when I got Roxy, and she was used to having a brother, right? And then March Marcello at that point was way too old. He was like 14, she was one,
Mm.
two. So they didn't really play together that much, but they did work out a relationship, which they were very close at the end. But in the beginning, it was like they had to kind of stand their grounds or something. But when he passed away, she ended up being like a nursemaid to him. She would go outside with him when he had to pee and stay with him until he was done and go back with him. So she was very sweet. And I wanted her to have a companion that she could play with. So I had noticed what kind of dogs in the neighborhood she liked. And they were all little boy dogs, short hair, kind of terrier type. So that's what I looked for when I was looking for a new companion for Roxy. I looked for and we have a book in, I don't know if you have it in South Africa. It's called Pet Finder, and it's online, and all the rescue organizations and all the shelters, they put pictures of the dogs in this Pet Finder, and it's online. So
I'm
like
not
if you
aware of a similar sort of book in SA,
it's
but
wonderful.
I know
Yeah.
the rescue organizations are pretty organized now with social media and that kind of thing. They are,
Yeah.
but Pet Finder sounds like a very good idea because
Oh,
you
it's wonderful because say if
everybody's aware.
somebody really wants to have, say, a Cocker Spaniel or
Yeah,
something, you can
yeah.
look up Cocker Spaniel. You can look up, say, in
Wow.
what radius are you
Uh-huh.
willing to travel to see the dog? So if you say like 30 miles, Cocker Spaniel, boom, you get pages of that. It's
Wow.
really great. So I
That's
was
brilliant.
looking, I was looking on Pet Finder, and I also, and I didn't see one that really called out to me, but I also went out to the local shelters and rescues, and I was looking, and I don't know what, I just felt like I would know it when I saw it, like, and then I saw Romeo's picture. They, at that time, they called him Skippy because he had a limp.
Oh,
But I saw his picture, and as soon as I saw it, I said, wow, that's the dog. And I don't know why, it was just like an internal thing. I had a real strong feeling about it. And so I called and I called, and they're such a busy organization, and they don't have all that many volunteers. So it took them a while to get back to me. I almost gave up and went to look at another dog. But finally, after a couple of weeks, and I think it was because he was just coming out of not being able to walk, because he had these he was in casts and everything for months. The poor thing, he didn't even have a family. He was a puppy, and then he got the surgery and he had to be in, so he had a rough life. So anyway, I she brought him over to my house, and Roxy, I was talking to Roxy about it and telling her Roxy understands a lot. I said, their doggy's coming, so she was excited. So when she came and rang the doorbell, I opened the door, and Roxy's on one side and Romeo's on the other side, and they take one look at each other and their tails start wagging like that. And they're just like, they fall in love. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, you would see he
beautiful.
would jump into the same dog bed with her, and they would look in each other's eyes, and they would kiss each other. I mean, it was so sweet,
That's
really.
precious. That is so
Yeah.
precious. Georgia, just listening to you talk about your pets, it for me it's moving because, as you said earlier, only a pet lover would understand that because it's a warm feeling. It's a whole, and it's good for us as human beings to have that closeness with an animal.
Oh
you know
yeah.
it just brings such a warmth into our lives. And so I wanted to ask you, how has your life of activism against animal injustices and other injustices in the world, because I know you're an activist from a long time ago, when you were a university student, you've been an activist. So, how has that inspired the writing of Terriers in the Jungle?
Well, I found it, our life so interesting in Kenya, and I learned so much that, but really it was the dogs, when I watched the dogs and their reaction, they were having their own adventures over there. They met elephants. And I saw how they reacted with different animals, and so it just it was just a natural thing that it had to come out of me somehow, because I loved it so much. And um hopefully, I wanted to write it because, first of all, just because I wanted to write down, it was a beautiful experience, but also I was hoping to share that with other people. And see, my mother was a person who never understood the love of animals. So I was hoping, I don't know if it would ever reach somebody like her or not, but it might, and then, or just other people have told me so far that not a huge amount of people have read it so far, but they've told me, yeah, it really made them think about animals more and what we humans need to do. Because I tried to, I mean, I didn't even try. It just kind of came out of me, you know, the things that animals are going through and at the hands of humans, you know, so much of it. And just like climate change, it's all because of humans, not animals. You know, animals are in touch with nature. And if we need to be more in touch with nature, and that's what animals help us do, is to just really, if we can focus on them, they're just wonderful beings. They're not separate. They're brothers and sisters. You know, they consider the earth is their home, and it's our home too. And they're our brothers and sisters because we all have the feelings, we all share the same home, you know. And I just wanted to convey that, plus other observations. I mean, when I was in Kenya, you know, I love elephants and I wanted to work directly with elephants. I wasn't able to find a work permit to do that, but I was offered a job working with these young girls who had been raped. And and I was the environmental director because I told them I wanted to work for conservation. So they said, okay, work with the girls. So they knew nothing. They knew nothing about animals. We lived in an area where there were a lot of monkeys, three different kind of monkeys, one endangered colobus monkey, beautiful black and white. Anyway, I would be sitting outside with the girls talking, and a monkey would come over, and I'd say, who knows what kind of monkey that is? Nobody. I was shocked because they lived there their whole lives and they don't know. So, and then I realized, you know, these are the girls, they come from poor rural areas. This is where there's a lot of the human animal conflict, you know, that because there's such a population explosion and people are building on the ancient migratory routes of the animals. So the animals go on the same route they've been going on for hundreds of years, but all of a sudden there's a farm there. So they stop and they eat things. And then the farmer gets mad and considers them a pest and shoots them with a poison arrow. And that's a big problem. So I realized if I could get these girls to love animals and nature, they could put a stop to that because that's where they live. So that's what was my goal, and we did
And
great
did you
things. They
achieve that? Did you achieve that?
Well, I know I achieved it for some of the girls, and they some of them were volunteering every week at the monkey conservation place. We were cleaning the beach. We were going to lectures from the Marine Center. I took them on a big trip. They had never seen an elephant
Wow.
because they're so poor that they never leave their one spot. So, you know, I went to, oh, somebody's ringing my doorbell. Anyway, Roxy, it's okay.
Is that Roxy?
Um, yeah.
Hi, Roxy.
Roxy, come here. Want to say hello? Come here, baby. Anyway, here's Roxy.
Hello, Roxy. Oh my goodness, look at you. Wow, what a pretty girl. Look
Isn't
at
she pretty?
you.
You're my pretty girl. Yes,
You're
she's so
lovely.
pretty.
Well-traveled baby. Oh,
Yes. She's
she's
a
so
total love. She's just a love.
just
So,
love.
but she's also with wildlife. She's fierce. Anyway, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought. What was
That's
the,
fine. You were talking about the young girls who had never
oh,
seen
the
it.
young girls. Uh,
You know, Georgia, the thing is, and I think that is why books, this is my opinion, books and the movies that promote wildlife are so important
yes,
because everybody's watching. And,
yes,
you know, in the most deprived communities, you have cellular access to a point, and people are watching, you know, something, anything. And
yeah,
every bit this is what they say with rhino conservation. Every bit counts. So therefore, I think your book is so important. It's so important, and it is. I think it's very relevant for our times, especially with wildlife conservation, because it's giving a positive message about animals. And well, what success are you having with getting this book to those communities?
Well, it just came out a couple weeks ago, so I haven't gotten it out there yet.
Mhm.
I'm hoping. I've been sending notices to my friends in Kenya, but they would have to order a book from I guess Amazon UK, or but it costs a lot because they have to pay for the shipping and everything, is my understanding. So a lot of them can't afford it. But it is coming out on ebook, um, Kindle, on February 2nd. And if anybody has a computer, they can
They
download it on their
share,
computer.
they can have like a mass reading, because that's the marvelous thing about digital communication. It would be
Yeah.
wonderful if they could all eventually get the paperbacks, which would be great. But before that, as you say, if it's, in Kindle version, there's so many ways to read it, and you can share it to a mass audience. And you see, I know this because I taught digital art to a group of children who didn't have devices. And the thing is, we used a big screen. We had one or two devices available they had to share. This was a group of 60 kids, and
Oh,
also from poor backgrounds. And the thing is, children grasp knowledge very quickly. And it doesn't matter how big the class is. We shared the information, we shared the art tech onto the big screen, and the kids learned very quickly. I will share
that's
with you.
great.
I
That's
will
wonderful.
send you some pictures to show you
Yes,
how quickly they
I'd
learned
love to
and how
see
they were
that.
copying what they did it traditionally. They did it with pencils and crayons and things that we provided. But I know they learned every digital technique I taught them, because children don't forget. And
Right,
when the
right.
day comes,
That's
they will
wonderful.
reproduce it. Yeah, so that's what I hope for your book. I hope that they do that in Kenya. They have these
Thank
mass
you.
readings of it, because just to promote the love of the story to these communities of girls and young children, it can change conservation forever.
Well, let's hope.
It has
Yeah,
that potential. That is why I'm a strong believer of every bit counts, because it's positive. It's
yeah.
really positive output. Your thoughts and your experiences, and thank you very much for writing this book as well. As an animal activist, I think you did good for
Thank you.
the cause, because a lot of people have experiences, but I think some people struggle with the telling of a story. And I think if you have the gift to tell the story and you do it, well, good on you. There
Well,
is, there are various uh, Facebook pages for the Kruger National Park in our country, and one of the very popular ones had, I think this gentleman is a prominent park official of some sort, and he gave a detailed post about how the park runs, which countries are close to the park, which borders, separate different countries. I think it's Mozambique and some other country he was going on about, but it was a very detailed post, good information about the Kruger National Park, and I was so excited to see that. And I think we need more of that kind of output in the world,
yes.
where, you know, because the more we educate ourselves about the wildlife, then we can become better stewards. So that's how I
Exactly.
look at you. I see you as a steward through your book.
Thank you, darling. I appreciate that. Well, I really think that when I see one of my goals with the book, I want to create a new school, new kind of school in Kenya,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
because the young girls who get pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, there's a lot of them, and they never go back to school. So I want to create a school that's specifically for young mothers and children. And it's going to follow the role model of elephants, because the mother elephant is the matriarch and leads the group. And so it's going to be called the Elephant Matriarch School, and for
Oh,
mothers and children. And the goal is to foster nature protectors and community leaders. And so of course, if it becomes a movie, I would
you can fund
probably
it.
be able to do that, much easier, because
Absolutely.
but we'll see what happens. That's one of my goals, besides the movie, is the school. But
Mm-hmm.
then when I started thinking about the school, I realized here in the United States, we have no nature training in school, just like I'm saying they have no nature training, but I was surprised because they're so surrounded by all this beauty. But we have so much here too, and we don't know. They don't teach us in school what kind of tree. Most people cannot tell you the names of the trees on their block.
Yes.
Don't we take it for granted. Everything is taken for granted. And so if I ever get to that point, like after the movie and the school, and maybe I'm considered an expert, I would like to talk to the curriculum makers and help design nature programs starting at the youngest age, so that every year there would be nature immersion. And that's how we help climate change. We start young, we get people excited, and we do everything as much as we can. But I mean, hopefully there's still time.
Well, that's marvelous, and I like that approach as well because, well, being an activist is tiring because it's a lonely life. Because sometimes you have to take the walk on your own, but when you meet others along the journey, it makes it all so meaningful. I have people asking a lot of questions about uh, animal activism, and like you, I'm amazed because I actually believe we all, every human being, has a responsibility to be a steward on this earth and to take care of them. They need us. And it's so
Yeah.
exciting, Georgia. The other day, Gavin and I were driving up into the mountains and I saw a mountain goat. And it was I saw this animal in its habitat and it was just so beautiful. He didn't see it because he was driving, but I saw it and it was wow. We are so blessed that we can see this and to protect them and to keep the environment safe for them. I think every single human being has a responsibility, and good on you for writing your book, a book promoting animal activism, promoting love for animals, and also the telling of stories. It's so important just to make us love them. I believe writing, visual art, performing art, they all work together. We're creative beings. And if we all synergize this, I think we can save our wildlife and we can protect our world. I mean, that's the message I would like to go out. And I think on that positive note, thank you, Georgia. It was
No.
very kind of you to come.
Oh,
And I must ask one last question before we say goodbye. So Roxy and Romeo are very famous now. How are they handling the fame? So I had to end on that. How are they handling the fame?
we're just starting to realize that, I have little, no, here's a picture of the book cover, Terriers in the Jungle. And see, there are
Congratulations.
pictures, Roxy and Romeo. So when I had some little cards made that look just like the cover. So when I go walking the dog, I'm fortunate that I live in a community that used to be called Dogtown.
Okay.
Everybody and their brother has a dog, and you go walking and you always talk to people with their dogs. And
Yeah.
so I just pull out my little card to say, well, my dogs wrote a book, and so I've been inviting people to our book signing next
Yeah.
week and everything, but it's true. It's like just talking to people and getting them more involved.
Mhm.
It's fun. It's
Good.
great.
It's marvelous, and that your dogs, your family of dogs, are part of the story. I just think it's such a sweet story. And
Thank you.
well, I have experienced that in Santa Monica, walking on that pier and just walking on the promenade, and beautiful dogs, lots and lots of dogs. I was one of those people stopping and petting the dogs and getting to talk to people because I was missing my dogs when I was away for so long.
Right,
So
of
just
course.
being around so many dogs, it was just wonderful. And who knows, I could have passed you on the, oh, and bless you. So
When are
I could
you there?
I could have passed you on the pier or the promenade with your dog. So Georgia, it was wonderful having you over
Thank you,
talking about
sweetie.
your
It was great having being here.
yeah, and thank you for
uh,
making time. I know it's very early on your end.
Thank you for appreciating the book. I really
Oh, I
thank
enjoyed
you.
reading it.
I didn't know how it was going to be received. I'm still waiting for some negativity to come my way, but so far it's all been positive.
It's been positive.
So
So
uh,
well, this was not part of the interview, but I guess I could ask you this. You ever thought of getting this book into a school, or that kind of reader?
Sure, I would, but I mean, I just remember I just came out a couple
You just
weeks
came
ago,
out with
and I'm
it.
just
Some
struggling. I just the big thing is to get it. If it can get a lot of readers and people who really like it and write reviews and stuff,
Mhm.
then I think it gives everything a better chance. It lifts it up. If I try to go to movie producers and I say, look, these are what things people say about the book. These are how many people bought the book.
Mhm.
And the same thing with schools or anything else, I mean, it's just right now I realized, although I have these big dreams, I have to
Such
focus
a
on
dream.
selling books,
Oh, that's the hard part, right?
No.
But your book signing, I wish you success with that, and I
Thank you.
wish you many, many, many book sales,
Oh,
and
thank you.
whatever we can do in our part to give you some publicity and to let people know, we'll do that for you
Oh,
because
thank you,
I'm
honey.
really
That's
passionate about animal activism,
I
and
know you are, yes. And I'm
I'm
glad. I'm so glad that a lot of people are becoming more. When I first started going to Africa, to Kenya, I was so in love with the elephants. I still am. And I would write articles and put my pictures up. And back then, there weren't very many people doing that. People were amazed, like, oh, look at that. But today, you go on Facebook, so many people are writing about it and putting
That's
pictures up. And I,
wonderful.
I like to
That's what
think
I
that
love
maybe
about
I helped to push it along a little bit,
it. Yeah.
back like 12 years ago when I started doing it. So, it's
I
good that
actually have, we have beautiful wildlife experiences because we take regular trips to the park, the big park in South Africa, the
you're
Kruger National
lucky. I
Park.
miss the animals so much.
So the elephants, if you miss all the other animals for a day's trip into the park, you definitely will see the elephants. I mean, the numbers are dwindling because of poaching and various other reasons, but you will see an elephant. And I have many artworks of the elephants, and I must share some with you. And
Oh.
also close by here, maybe about 3 hours away, we have the Addo National Elephant Park. If you ever visit South Africa,
Well, I
we will
hope
go
to
there.
one day.
We will
Yeah.
go there. I will take you there.
Yes.
It is beautiful. And the one day, Gavin and I drove for practically 3 hours and they wouldn't come out. The
Uh-huh.
elephant wouldn't come out because it was windy and they do not like the wind in their ears.
Uh-huh.
So we continued driving. We saw the zebra, we saw the kudu, and just about every other animal, but not the elephant. And just as we drove out of the park, we were just leaving the trail, and here this big bull comes out. And it's moments, it would be moments like that that I will treasure for the rest of my life. And I think when you appreciate that in life, then it's something about noticing the small things and also being present and aware. So I'm grateful that
Yes.
animals have
Yes.
done that for me personally. That's
Yes.
where I stand with this. So thank you very much, Georgia,
You're
and
welcome.
enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh,
And
thank you
all
so
the best
much.
to Carol as well.
I will. I will. And thank you and say hi to Gavin. I hope to meet
Will
him
do.
someday.
Have a
Okay.
blessed day. And hugs to Roxy and Romeo.
Right on.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
sweetie. Bye.
Bye.